The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. 12 different species sat together on the High Military Council, and they made all the important decisions about war and peace. Their meeting place was a giant space station called the Eternal Throne, floating at the center of known space. Humanity had joined this council only 40 years ago. The other species did not think much of humans. They saw them as weak, emotional, and short-lived creatures who died after only 100 years. The aliens tolerated humans because they had won a few small wars, but nobody respected them. General Una Park was the human representative on the council. She was 52 years old, with dark hair that had some gray in it. Her eyes were calm but sharp, like someone who had seen many terrible things and learned to stay strong through all of them. She had served in the military for 30 years and earned her seat through blood and sacrifice. At the head of the council table sat High Commander Vorath. He was a draken, a species of giant reptiles covered in thick scales. Vorath stood 8 feet tall and had claws that could tear through metal. He was known for 2 things: his skill in battle and his hatred for what he called lesser species. Humans were at the top of his hate list. Today the council was discussing defense ships for the Orion sector. Humans had 17 colony worlds there, and pirates had been attacking them more and more. General Park asked for extra patrol ships to protect her people. Vorath waved his clawed hand and said no. "Your colonies are your problem," he said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Maybe if humans were not so weak, they would not need so much protection. Some of the other generals laughed quietly. The insult was clear to everyone. General Park kept her face calm. She had heard worse things before. "High Commander, with respect, the Orion sector is next to 3 active war zones. The pirate attacks are connected to larger problems that affect everyone." Vorath slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. I am tired of human excuses. You were given a seat on this council as a gift. Do not think that makes you equal to us." Park did not back down. "I represent 400 billion human souls across 200 worlds. I have earned my place here." 42. "I have earned my place here." Vorath stood up slowly. His massive body blocked the light as he walked toward her. Each step made the floor shake. The other generals watched in silence. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked excited, like they were watching a show. Vorath stopped right in front of Park. He towered over her, his shadow covering her completely. "You speak of earning your place," he said, looking down at her like she was an insect. "But you do not understand something very important, human. You do not belong here. You never will." Park stood up from her chair. She barely reached his chest, but she did not look afraid. "I belong here as much as anyone. My people have bled for this council. We have—" The slap came so fast that most beings in the room did not see it happen. Vorath's massive hand struck Park across the face. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. She stumbled backward, catching herself on the table. Blood dripped from her split lip onto her uniform. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. In 10,000 years of the Galactic Council, no general had ever struck another general in open session. It was unthinkable. It was a declaration that humans were not even worth treating as equals. Vorath looked down at her with disgust. "Know your place, human." The other generals waited for Park to cry, to scream, to run away, to do something weak and human. That was what they expected. Instead, General Una Park slowly straightened her back. She touched her bleeding lip with her fingers and looked at the blood. Then, she looked up at Vorath. She smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was not a scared smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something that nobody else in the room knew. "You have exactly 10 seconds, she said. Her voice was quiet and calm. Vorath laughed. It was an ugly sound. 10 seconds? Until what? Until you cry? Until you beg? Until you show everyone what weak creatures humans really are? Park just watched him. Her eyes never moved from his face. 10, she said. 9. 8. The other generals looked at each other. What was she doing? Was this some strange human ritual? A threat? A joke? 7. 6. Vorath was still laughing. But something in her eyes made him uncomfortable. He would never admit it, but he felt a tiny, cold feeling in his stomach. 5. 4. 3. Vorath looked around the room quickly. Nothing had changed. No weapons. No soldiers. No traps. Just a small human woman with blood on her face, counting backward. 2. 1. The lights in the chamber flickered once. Vorath's body jerked like something had hit him. Then it jerked again. His yellow eyes went wide with shock. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. A thin line of dark blood appeared across his throat. Then another line appeared across his chest. Then a dozen more lines appeared all over his body, as if invisible knives were cutting him from every direction at once. He fell. By the time his body hit the floor, High Commander Vorath was dead. The chamber exploded into chaos. Guards ran in with weapons ready. Generals shouted and screamed. Alarms started ringing throughout the station. Everyone was looking for the killer, searching for the weapon, trying to understand what had just happened. General Una Park calmly wiped the blood from her lip with the back of her hand. She stepped over Vorath's body as if it was nothing more than a piece of furniture in her way. She walked toward the exit with steady steps. "I believe this meeting is finished," she said. Nobody tried to stop her. Nobody dared. The death of High Commander Vorath became the biggest news story in galactic history within hours. Every news channel on every planet showed the same footage again and again. A giant Draken warrior struck a human woman. She counted to 10. He died. But nobody could explain how. The security cameras showed everything clearly. Vorath was alive. Then he was dead. Nothing had touched him. Nothing had moved. No weapon had been fired. No poison had been used. He simply fell apart, cut into pieces by something that was not there. General Park was arrested immediately. They questioned her for 3 days and 3 nights. She answered every question calmly and honestly. She had not moved during the countdown. She had not sent any signal. She had not used any weapon. "I only counted," she told them. He chose not to listen. The investigators found nothing. Her blood was normal. Her body had no strange technology. Her personal items were ordinary. She had no known friends who could kill someone without being seen. Scientists from 12 different species studied Vorath's body. The wounds looked like they came from very thin, very sharp blades, but such weapons were extremely rare, and nobody could use them with such speed and accuracy. Whatever killed Vorath had cut him from many directions at the same time, faster than any known creature could move, but there was nobody there. The cameras proved it. Every general was in their seat. Every guard was at their post. Vorath died in a room full of witnesses, killed by nothing. The Draken Empire demanded revenge. They wanted blood. 3 of their warships flew toward human space, ready for war. Then, a human fleet appeared from nowhere, and the Draken ships turned back. That was when the galaxy started asking questions. Intelligence agencies from all 12 species began gathering information about humanity. What they found was strange. Humans had joined the galactic community 40 years ago. Their technology was normal. Their military was average. They won their wars by being brave and accepting losses, not by having better weapons. But there were missing pieces everywhere, ships that did not exist on any official list, military files that were almost empty, entire divisions of the human army that seemed to exist only on paper, and rumors, always rumors, about something called the Ghost Protocol. 3 weeks after Vorath's death, Director Taeho Kim received an invitation to speak before the council. He was the head of human intelligence, the most secret part of the human government. He was a quiet man in his 60s with kind eyes and a gentle face. He looked more like a friendly grandfather than a spy master. He appeared before the 11 remaining generals with a small smile on his face. "You want to know how Vorath died?" he said. It was not a question. "We demand to know," shouted General Kreth of the Vorn Collective. This was an act of war. Director Kim tilted his head slightly. Was it? High Commander Vorath struck a fellow general without any reason. Council law says that is grounds for a challenge. General Park simply accepted the challenge. "She did nothing," Kreth screamed. "She stood there and counted." "Yes." Director Kim agreed. "She did." And Vorath had 10 seconds to say sorry. He chose not to. The room went silent. Admiral Senna of the Aquari Federation spoke next. Her voice was calm but curious. "What killed him? We have studied every possibility. There is no technology that could do this." Director Kim smiled again. It was a patient, almost apologetic smile. "The Galactic Empire has known humanity for 40 years, he said. "In that time, you have watched our public military. You have counted our registered ships. You have measured our abilities and decided we were acceptable. Nothing special." He paused and looked around the room. "But humanity has existed for 300,000 years. We have been fighting wars against ourselves and against everything else since we first existed. Did you really think that in 40 years, you had seen everything we can do?" Nobody answered. "The Ghost Protocol is not a weapon." Director Kim continued. "It is not a machine or a program. It is a promise. Every human child learns it from the day they are born. If you hurt one of us, we will find you, and we will end you." He looked at each alien face in turn, meeting their eyes one by one. Vorath struck General Park. He was warned. He did not listen. And so, he died. Director Kim spread his hands open. "There is no mystery here. Only consequence." Vorath struck. Vorath struck. Vorath struck. General Park. "He was no mystery here. Only consequence." General Kreth leaned forward. "You expect us to believe that humanity can kill anyone, anywhere?" Instantly, without any trace, Director Kim's smile disappeared. For just one moment, his kind eyes turned cold and hard. "I expect nothing, General. I am simply telling you what happened. What you choose to believe is your own business." He glanced at the empty seat where Vorath used to sit. "But I would suggest you believe very carefully." He turned and walked out of the chamber without looking back. Behind him, 11 generals sat in complete silence. For the first time since they had met humanity, they wondered what humans really were. They had thought humans were weak and fragile and emotional. They had thought humans were simple creatures who got lucky in a few small wars. Now they were not so sure. Now they were afraid. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something was watching, waiting, protecting every human life with patient, invisible eyes. It had no name that aliens knew. It had no form they could see. It simply existed, as it had existed for centuries, as it would exist forever. The Ghost Protocol was not a secret. It was a warning, and High Commander Vorath had not listened. The Draken Empire did not believe in ghosts. They were an ancient species, proud and powerful. They had conquered 300 worlds by being strong and brutal. The death of Vorath was a mystery. Yes, it was a tragedy, but it was not a reason to be afraid. High Warlord Kroth took command of the Draken military. He was Vorath's younger brother, bigger and more aggressive. He burned with cold anger and wanted revenge more than anything. "Humanity has killed our High Commander," he said to the Draken War Council. "They have admitted it openly. They laugh at us with their Ghost Protocol. They think we are scared." He slammed his fist on the stone table so hard that it cracked. "We will show them what fear really means." The Draken 7th Fleet set course for a human colony called New Busan. It was a farming world with 800,000 people, mostly families growing food for other human planets. It had almost no defenses. It would be easy to destroy. The Galactic Council warned humanity. They told the humans to leave the planet before the fleet arrived. Surrender, they said. Run away. Negotiate later, when you are in a weaker position. General Una Park attended the emergency council meeting through a hologram. Her face was calm. The wound on her lip had healed completely. We will not leave, she said simply. Admiral Senna shook her head. You cannot defend against the 7th Fleet. Your nearby forces are too small. Your reinforcements are too far away. New Busan will be destroyed. If you work the Bar 7th, we seen Adaros. Maybe, Park said, but we will not run. The Draken 7th Fleet arrived at New Busan 3 days later. 47 warships, 2 million soldiers, enough firepower to turn the planet into dust and ash. High Warlord Krath looked at the planet on his view screen. He had expected tricks. He had expected some clever human plan. Instead, he found nothing. No defense platforms in orbit. No fleet waiting to fight. No trap. Just a world full of farmers and their children, going about their normal lives as if death was not hanging above them in the sky. Krath smiled. The humans were even more stupid than he thought. Begin the attack, he ordered. The first weapons fired, and then the 7th Fleet went silent. 3 hours passed. Then a single Draken ship was found drifting through space toward the nearest inhabited system. Its emergency signal was active, but nobody on board answered when other ships tried to talk to them. When rescue teams finally entered the ship, they found everything working perfectly. The power was on. The air was clean. The lights were bright. Every Draken on board was dead, not killed by weapons, not hurt in battle. They were just dead. Some sat at their control stations with their hands still on the buttons. Some lay in their beds, as if sleeping. Some stood in hallways, frozen in the middle of walking somewhere. 2 million soldiers across 47 ships, all dead at the same moment, all killed within seconds of the first shot being fired at New Busan. There was no damage to the ships. No sign of any attack. No poison in the air. No radiation. No explanation. They had simply stopped living. Medical teams from many species examined the bodies. They could not find a cause of death. No cells were damaged. No brains were hurt. The Draken had just stopped existing, as if some invisible hand had reached inside them and turned off the thing that made them alive. The galaxy could not understand. The galaxy could not explain. The galaxy could only be afraid. On Earth, Director Taeho Kim released one short message to all news channels. We warned them. They did not listen. Humanity is not to be touched. The Draken Empire screamed for justice. Their allies on the council demanded action. This was genocide, they said. Humanity had murdered 2 million beings. They must be punished. General Park responded at the next council meeting. The 7th Fleet fired weapons at a civilian colony, she said. Her voice was steady and calm. Under galactic law, that is an act of war and attempted genocide. We defended ourselves. You killed 2 million soldiers, General Kreth shouted. His face was red with anger. Yes, Park agreed. And not one human child was hurt. I think that is a fair trade. She looked around the room slowly, meeting every pair of alien eyes. Let me be very clear. Humanity does not want war. We do not want to conquer or control anyone. We only want to live in peace, raise our families, and explore the stars. But we will not be victims. We will not be bullied. And we will not be hit without hitting back. She stood up from her chair. The Draken sent 47 ships to murder 800,000 farmers. Those ships are now tombs. If any other species wants to test us, they can try. But I would not recommend it. I won. Coming. She walked out of the chamber. This time, nobody said a word. On New Busan, the farmers looked up at the sky where death had been hanging just days before. The sky was empty now. clean and blue and peaceful. Their children played in the fields, laughing and running, not knowing how close they had come to dying. Somewhere, somehow, something had protected them, something invisible and powerful and absolutely loyal to humanity. The farmers did not know what it was. They did not need to know. They only needed to know one thing. They were safe. They would always be safe, because humanity took care of its own. Always. No matter what. No matter who tried to hurt them. No matter how powerful the enemy seemed to be. The Ghost Protocol was not just a warning anymore. It was a proven fact. And the galaxy would never forget it. The death of the Seventh Fleet changed everything overnight. Species that had ignored humanity suddenly wanted to be friends. Trade deals that used to be unfair now became generous. The human ambassador, who used to be treated like a minor official, was now invited to every important meeting. But the questions never stopped. How had humanity done it? What weapon had killed 2 million Draken in one instant? Why had nobody seen anything? The greatest scientists of 12 species worked on the problem. But it had happened anyway. Ji Su-han was a spy for the Aquari Federation. She was their best agent, with 100 years of experience. She could speak 18 languages and pretend to be almost any species. She had never failed a mission in her entire career. Her new task was simple. Go to human space and find out the truth about the Ghost Protocol. It took her 3 months to create a fake identity. She became a trader who bought and sold rare minerals. She traveled through human colonies, talking to people, gathering small pieces of information. The humans were friendly and open. They smiled and laughed and invited her to dinner. They seemed to have nothing to hide. But Jisoo noticed strange things. Conversations would suddenly stop when certain topics came up. Strangers would look at each other with knowing eyes. Children would watch her a little too carefully. Old soldiers would smile in a strange way when she asked about the military, like she had told a funny joke. And the silence. No human ever talked about the Ghost Protocol. Not in bars. Not in homes. Not even in quiet whispers. It was like the entire species had agreed never to discuss it, even with each other. Jisoo finally made her way to Earth, the human homeworld. She expected to find military bases and weapons factories and research centers. She expected to find evidence of the technology that had killed a fleet. Instead, she found parks, museums, schools full of happy children, old people feeding birds next to fountains, cities built for comfort, not for war. There was no military anywhere she could see, no war statues, no propaganda posters, no culture of fighting. Earth seemed like a paradise, peaceful, content, harmless. It was the most terrifying place Jisoo had ever visited. She was sitting in a small cafe in the city of Busan when an old man sat down at her table. He was maybe 70 years old, with white hair and a face full of wrinkles. He ordered tea and waited for it to arrive before speaking. "You are very good, Agent Han," he said in perfect Aquari language. "You lasted longer than most spies do." Jisoo felt her blood turn cold. She had not made any mistakes. Her cover was perfect. "I do not know what you mean," she said carefully. The old man smiled. "My name is Seokjin Cho. I am retired now. But I used to do the same job as Director Kim. I have been watching you since you entered human space. That is impossible. Your security systems are exactly what we want others to see." He sipped his tea slowly. "You came to find out about the Ghost Protocol. You want to know how we killed Vorath. How we killed the Seventh Fleet." Jisoo said nothing. There was no point in lying anymore. "I will tell you everything," Seokjin said. "Because it does not matter. Because knowing will not help you. And because maybe understanding will prevent more death in the future." He put down his cup and looked at her with serious eyes. "Humanity is not like other species. We are social animals, yes, but we are also hunters. For 300,000 years, we hunted everything. Animals, monsters, each other. We created weapons of death before we created medicine. We went to space because we wanted to put bombs there. He shrugged his old shoulders. We are dangerous creatures. We know this about ourselves. So when we finally stopped fighting each other and became one united species, we made a promise. Never again would we let anything hurt our people without consequences. The Ghost Protocol, Jisoo said quietly. Yes, but it is not a weapon, Agent Han. It is not a machine. It is something else entirely. He leaned forward across the small table. When humanity spread across the stars, we did not send only farmers and builders. We sent guardians. Every human colony, every ship, every small outpost has them. They are always among us, invisible and patient, always watching. They are in the walls of our buildings. They are in the air we breathe. They are in our very blood. Jisoo felt cold fear crawling up her spine. We call them the sleepless. They are human, or they were human once. They volunteered to become something more. Something that exists between moments of time. Something that moves through spaces other beings cannot see. They do not eat. They do not sleep. They do not grow old. They just watch. And when one of us is in danger, they act. Vorath, Jisoo whispered. He struck General Park in front of witnesses, Seokjin confirmed. He was already dead before his hand finished moving. The sleepless just let him experience those last 10 seconds. A kindness. Really. And the 7th Fleet fired weapons at a colony of farmers. The old man's eyes turned hard and cold. The sleepless killed every Draken on every ship instantly. At the same moment. Without mercy. Jisoo's hands were shaking. How many are there? These sleepless? Seokjin smiled. Enough. He stood up slowly from the table. Go back to the HFY Federation, Agent Han. Tell them what you have learned. Tell them humanity is no threat to anyone who does not threaten us first. Tell them we only want peace. He paused at the door of the cafe. But also tell them this. Every human being, every man and woman and child across 200 worlds, is protected by something they cannot fight, something they cannot see, something they cannot escape. He looked back at her one last time. We do not start wars, Agent Han. But we end them. Every single time. He walked out into the sunlight and disappeared into the crowd. Jisoo sat alone in the cafe for a very long time. Her tea grew cold. Her mind raced with everything she had learned. Humanity had turned itself into a protected species. Every single human was guarded by ghosts that lived in the spaces between heartbeats. And there was nothing anyone could do about it. She finally understood why humans never talked about the Ghost Protocol. They did not need to. The sleepless were always listening. 1 year had passed since High Commander Vorath died in the council chamber. The Galactic Council met again for their yearly meeting. 11 species were present. The Draken seat was empty because their empire had fallen into civil war after their great defeat. General Yuna Park sat in the same seat she had always used. It used to seem like a token gift. A small gesture to keep the humans quiet. Nobody thought that way anymore. The meeting covered normal business. Resources. Borders. Trade. But underneath all the boring talk, something important had changed. When Park spoke, every general listened carefully. When she made suggestions, they agreed quickly. When she raised problems, they fixed them immediately. It was not exactly fear. It was more like respect. The kind of respect you give to a dangerous animal that has chosen to be peaceful. Humanity had shown what they could do. The other species finally understood what Director Kim had told them a year ago. They had never really known what humanity was capable of. After the official meeting ended, Admiral Senna of the HFY Federation found Park in a quiet hallway. "General," she said. "May I speak honestly with you?" Park nodded. "I have read Agent Han's report," Senna continued. "The things she described, the sleepless, the ghost protocol. I do not fully understand it all. But I think I understand enough. What do you understand, Admiral? Senna was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I understand that humanity could have conquered us all, she said finally. When you first joined the galactic community, you already had this power. You could have used it then, when we treated you like lesser beings. You could have used it 100 times since then. But you did not. No, Park agreed. We did not. Why? Park thought about the question. Through the window, beside them, stars sparkled against the black emptiness of space. Hundreds of civilizations. Trillions of living beings. An endless ocean of life and possibility. Because we remember what we used to be, Park said softly. Humanity spent most of its history at war. Country against country. Idea against idea. We almost destroyed ourselves many times before we reached the stars. We know what happens when power has no limits. We know where violence leads. R.O.T. R.O.T. She turned to look at Senna directly. The sleepless were not made to conquer anyone. They were made to protect, to make sure humanity would never face extinction again, whether the threat came from inside or outside. They are guardians, Admiral. Nothing more. But you could use them for conquest. Senna pressed. You could make every species kneel before you. Nobody could stop you. No, Park admitted. Nobody could. She smiled. It was a tired smile, but also a wise one. But that is not who we choose to be. We learned, Admiral. After thousands of years of blood and death, we finally learned. Power is not about what you can do. It is about what you choose not to do. Senna studied the human general for a long time. This woman, who had stood without moving, while a monster twice her size hit her face, who had counted down 10 seconds without blinking, who spoke for a species that could kill anyone, anywhere, at any time, but chose instead to farm planets and raise children and explore the universe in peace. I think I understand now, Senna said slowly. Why the other species fear you, but also why they should not. Fear is the wrong response, Park agreed. We are not monsters, Admiral. We are simply a species that refuses to let anyone hurt our children. She shrugged. Any good parent would do the same thing. Senna almost laughed. Any good parent does not have an army of invisible beings that can kill a fleet in 1 second. No, Park admitted. But if they did, they would use it the same way we do. Not for glory, not for power, just to keep their children safe. She held out her hand. It was a human gesture of friendship and respect. Peace between our peoples, Admiral. That is all we have ever wanted. Senna took her hand. The grip was warm and firm and completely human. Peace. She agreed. And maybe, with time, true understanding. 1,000 years later, the galaxy still remembered the day Vorath struck General Park. They remembered the 10-second countdown. They remembered the impossible death. They remembered the fleet that fell silent forever. But what they remembered most was what came after. Humanity never used their power for conquest. They never threatened anyone. They never demanded anything. They simply lived, peaceful and happy, quietly growing across their many worlds. And protected, always protected. Over the centuries, other species came to understand. The sleepless were not a danger to anyone who meant no harm. They were a promise, a sacred agreement between humanity and itself, extending outward to protect anyone who chose peace. New species joining the galactic community heard the old stories. Some laughed and called them myths. Some tested the limits, like Vorath had, like the Draken had. They learned very quickly, but most simply accepted what the older species had learned long ago. Humanity was different. They were small and weak and lived such short lives, but they had looked into the darkness inside themselves. And instead of being destroyed by it, They had turned it into something good, something that watched over them, something that never slept. An old human woman, a farmer who had never left her small colony world, was once asked why humanity was so protected. She smiled at the question. It was a grandmother's smile, full of warmth and patience. Because we take care of each other, she said simply. That is what family does. And that was the only answer that ever made sense. 400 billion humans across 200 worlds, and they still thought of themselves as one family. Still protected each other without question. Still believed, after everything they had suffered and everything they had done, in the simple power of watching out for each other. The sleepless had no faces. They had no names. They existed in the spaces between moments, in the darkness between stars, in the silence between heartbeats. But they were always there, and they always would be, because humanity does not forget its own. Not ever. Not for anything.